Hey everybody, it's Master Gallengeist here, bringing you my review of the latest episode of Supernatural, Drag Me Away From You. And I don't think that this one was a really good episode, but it wasn't. It wasn't like the most horrendous one, but I mean, that's not really saying much. My biggest gripe is that this was a Monster of the Week episode that felt very stretched and very fillery. Again, we run into this. I can't believe we ran into this problem in this kind of context where we somehow took one story, split it into two, and somehow it still kind of was like I would have rather liked a full flashback one dealing with them as kids hunting this thing, or them in the present having to deal with this. Never mind the fact that we've now, after this episode, have 4 episodes left, and we are still feel like we're spinning wheels to what's actually going on with the actual main plot. It There were just a lot of issues that cropped up with this one, and it just felt very boring. And we've really been here and done this, and trying to be kind of a greatest hits kind of vibe of like, oh, okay, another Monster of the Week one. Got to do some flashback stuff with like young Sam and Dean. Let's kind of see how this goes, and it just really doesn't work out well. So we start off, and we're like, okay, this dude's going into this motel, and evidently they don't usually accept this late for check-ins, and they let him go into the room, and he's kind of worried and everything. Somebody's trying to contact him, and he's like, it's not real, and he's holding this weird kind of thing around his neck. And then this young kid comes in, and he's like, "You're not real," coming out of the closet and everything. And he breaks this whiskey bottle or whatnot, and the kid apparition uses it to kill him. And then we see that Sam and Dean are driving. They're like 7 hours away, trying to figure out what's going on. It's like, yeah, we haven't heard about this dude in like 25 years or whatnot. And we learn as they go and meet up with this chick, Caitlin, that it is dealing with a hunting case thing that they had in 1993 in the same motel. And thus begins the whole part of the episode, pretty much splitting it between the 1993 portion and the present portion. Now, they were pretty much told that they were going to be coming for the funeral, but the funeral's already happened, and Caitlin, the sister that they had met back in 1993 in the motel with the brother Travis, and we find out that the apparition that we saw was the younger kind of version of Travis. So it's like, okay, not really kind of ghost, because that was the dude. And they at first didn't think it was their kind of case because it looked like it opened shut. He like killed himself with the whiskey bottle. But Caitlin, of course, is like, no, I think it's linked to what was going on. And then we just have it going back and forth. And holy crap, they did not get good young actors for Sam and Dean in this episode. They have done good younger actors before that are able to not feel like they're attempting to pull off the older Sam and Dean, but are able to kind of like inhibit it themselves, understand the kind of different kind of mannerisms, and not make it seem so out of place. This, I think, was just a mix of not the right actors, definitely, and just really no material beyond, hey, there's a spooky monster kind of thing in the motel, because we see that Travis was trying to imitate Dean's trick with the vending machine because John Winchester dropped him off to continue to go hunt. Young Dean makes fun of Sam for thinking he can go to college. The usual kind of stuff that we've already kind of covered. And again, I don't mind it if some kind of new facet is kind of gleaned from that. But we don't even really get that. It's just the same kind of stuff. So he, of course, makes fun of Sam. Sam's like, whatever. They go into the motel room. Dean, of course, goes to get the food from the vending machine. Does this kind of trick. Caitlin's like, oh, that's kind of cool. Their parent, of course, works there at the motel doing cleaning and all that. And Travis tries to imitate it again, but almost gets, like, grabbed by this weird, gnarly looking old lady. And we find out that this old lady thing has been capturing children and everything. So he pretty much has Sam, who really has not that young Sam has almost nothing besides the college thing to deal with this episode, to babysit Travis and make sure he looks okay. Dean was going to go off by himself, but Caitlin, of course, came after him. They had this whole kind of thing in the library where they coordinated out the attacks and found this old cannery. They go in, and it's pretty much the same thing. Like, Dean's able to find pretty much the nest, sees a dead kid, but doesn't allow Caitlin to see it. She, of course, is making remarks of him, like, sweating and being kind of nervous. It's like, yeah, because he's doing this stuff by himself. Usually you'd have somebody to kind of, like, help out. And they keep messing around with what's kind of going on. She's like, okay, let's just, all right, because she listens to his advice. They kind of go off. And by that point, the Baba Yaga, the monster, we don't know it's a Baba Yaga yet, is mucking around, decides to go after Sam and Travis. They pop in at the same time and are able to kind of get into it, and they're able to kind of slice its fingers off, and a ring kind of falls under the bed. It's like, okay, what's kind of going on there? It's kind of strange. And it kind of disapparates, and they think that it's done. Of course, we see. Now, granted, I'm going to pretty much try and finish this part out. They're, of course, thankful and all that. Dean, of course, apologizes to Sam about the whole college thing, and they just kind of go back off with John and kind of leave. In the present day, they're thinking, okay, let's kind of hit the lore, figure out what's going on. Caitlin's like, wow, okay, we need to figure out what's going on with this thing, because they didn't really do that before. They just kind of plotted out what it was. Dean's like, yeah, I'm just going to kill it. And pretty much didn't. He just saw its nest, saw some dead bodies, and he just assumed that he killed it. It's like, okay, that pretty much tracks, but I mean, we've seen and dealt with these kind of stories before. Again, do we glean anything differently this time around? Pretty much no. So, while they're pretty much doing that, we get a check-in from Billy, Death. And this is pretty much the only connection that we get in, well, this does give us the main kind of connection, as we learn that Dean has pretty much been hiding from Sam the whole Jack must die to kill God and Amara. And that's pretty much the big secret that we have. Another kind of greatest hits. We're rolling back around to this kind of thing again, and it's like, alright, that's not cool. And Billy's like, hey, you pretty much got your whole house in order? It's like, yeah, I know. Sam, are pretty much going to have to deal with that, because evidently, due to the story thing in Death's library, Billy is pretty much out of the picture for this until the end. Like, she doesn't come back. She's pretty much helped get Jack to where he needs to be or whatnot, because she's been going around to the other worlds, and God killed the last one, and we'll be popping back in here soonish. So pretty much, I understand that there's a certain plot in the storyline that has to go on, but you really want to hide that a little bit better, because Death is essentially a cosmic entity, and it needs to be explained why Chuck is able to control her within the narrative with this plot demanding kind of stuff, because that's what it gets really hard to deal with, kind of cosmic and universal absolutes and forces within a systematic framework of a narrative, because then you get into this effect of, like, if something can control Death, you're going to be hard pressed to be like, okay, if God has the ability to control Death, how can Billy, as Death, reap God ever? Because wouldn't you just essentially be able to, cannot kill me? You can't. Like, it just gets into that kind of thing of like, okay. And if God can't do that, and if God can't control Death, Death can do pretty much whatever they want. They could muck up their story. It really gets into, granted, the meditation of free will and choice versus fate and destiny and that kind of stuff, which is what really should have been going on here, but we see just, again, this surface level thing of like, okay, we flip-flop back and forth between what kind of the plot demands. Granted, Sam and Dean are trying to do everything for free will, but we get into some weird kind of conundrums, especially towards this episode, where it's like, okay, that doesn't sound like it really at all. Now, granted, you're in a framework that free will is kind of even a nebulous concept with the whole free will and choice and how you're able to kind of operate within this framework. But those are kind of bigger questions that needed to have been answered before, even before this point, so I really have no no hope that it's going to get any better from here on out. So, he gets all that kind of information, he gets back in, they figure out it's the Baba Yaga, it's this entity that goes after children, usually wears this kind of ring. Evidently, the ring thing is the whole thing connected to the Baba Yaga, and that Travis had fixed it up. That's kind of where everything started going down, because his therapist told him to do like immersion therapy. He's like, yeah, except don't have like the fucking thing that like powers the monster that you're fucking afraid of. And we see that Caitlin went out to be like, hey, where's the ring? She's like, hey, you looking for this? And it's taken the form of her dead brother, and then she's kind of like disappeared for a minute. So they start kind of hunting around. We get a fake out that the checkout girl is smoking weed in the back room, and it's like, okay, cool. And then Sam pretty much gets, well, they get to the point where they pretty much get attacked by the Baba Yaga. Well, we at first had seen that the Baba Yaga was trying to do some stuff looking like a younger Dean and all that towards Dean, and almost tried to get him to like take himself out before everything was going down. And we see that he starts figuring out what's going on. I was like, yeah, I'm hungry, and I kind of wants vengeance. So it starts pretty much fighting with Dean. Sam kind of plops in and figures out kind of what's going on and starts kind of attacking it. They're able to get the ring off of it, and Dean smashes it with his gun. And that's about it. We did get an interesting liner with Dean being like, yeah, I've seen this movie kind of before, kind of shtick. I'm like, yep, I've seen it before, I've seen it in this show, and I've seen it done better. And it's not like horrendous, but it's just so stretched out and kind of fillery. It's like, this deserved better. Like, a Baba Yaga one could have been an interesting one, and I'm looking at this, and you split it between two time periods, and both aren't really delved into enough to kind of justify the split. We could have just had an interesting Monster of the Week where they've usually kind of done really good work on them and just have it be entertaining, and then kind of bring it back into the end with the story arc going on. It has been done before, and this is just not it. I mean, it doesn't completely lore break what's going on or break what's kind of happened in like an episode previous to it, but it's just like, oh god, I was bored watching this. I'm like, okay, there's only so much that you can take of like seeing the characters doing these same things again and again before you're like, okay, just do something different. Where with this, it's just like, alright, because we've seen flashbacks, we've seen these kind of stories, and and we've seen them done better. We deserve better, the actors and the crew deserve better, and it's just really disappointing that we're ending it out kind of like this. So, they have their goodbyes with Caitlin and everything. They're all set up and everything. They start driving back, and of course, Sam's trying to get into contact with Cass. It's like, yeah, Dean goes, you can just stop that, and gives him the lowdown that Billy talked to him, and gives him the whole Jack rundown. Sam, of course, is pissed because he's giving the secret and everything, and that Dean's like, yeah, this is the only choice we've got. We've got to do it this way. I'm like, that doesn't really sound like a team free will kind of thing, especially since usually Dean's the one being the person trying to find another way to do this kind of thing. But, of course, we always get into the seesaw motions of different seasons of Sam does it the one season, Dean does it the next. And they just keep flipping back and forth, and now it's Sam's turn to be pissed off at Dean for keeping secrets that they've always kept and always keep revealing. And it's just, I get it, but there needs to be some sort of progression on this. This has happened so many times, with so many different things, with so many different apocalypses on so many different Tuesdays, that it has now become the regular Tuesday of the regular apocalypse that they have to stop. And it's just like, come on. I get it. It's supposed to be dramatic. There's supposed to be tension and everything like that. There's supposed to be stakes, but when there's so little variation between it, it's like, of course Sam's going to be pissed off. You kept this from him, and what's it going to do? They're either going to be able to find a way to change it out, or they're not going to find a way to change it out, and you're just pissing him off for no reason. At this point, you should be acting like adults and talking to each other and giving out all the information needed to be able to fight these gigantic cosmic threats, because otherwise, if you keep something back, it's going to get to a point and this shit stink's going to happen, and we're just going to keep going around and around. So we'll have to see kind of how this goes. I'm just like, okay, that happened again. It's about time that it happens again. So we got 4 episodes left of this. Now, I hope that all 4 of those will just deal with the stories and any pertaining information, like the pertinent main story of defeating Chuck, and any kind of pertinent information that needs to be MacGuffined or MacGyvered in to get to that goal. But I know that there's going to be, like, weird things put in for no apparent reason, time stretched out, and filler coming in, and it's just nuts. I'm just ready for this to be over. So those are my opinions on the episode. Tell me what you guys think in the comments below. If you liked it, if you didn't like it, if you agree with me, if you disagree with me. Also like and subscribe, and I hope you have a good day.